Good afternoon, brothers and sisters. We're in the second part of a three-part series in Psalm 98 called Joy to the World. I just want to read the last few verses of that psalm again. Starting with verse 4, "Shout to the Lord, all the earth, break out in praise and sing for joy. Sing your praise to the Lord with a harp and melodious song, with trumpets and the sound of the ram's horn. Make a joyful symphony before the Lord the King. Let the sea and everything in it shout his praise. Let the earth and all the things, living things, join in. Let the rivers clap their hands in glee. Let the hills sing out their songs of joy before the Lord. For he is coming to judge the earth, and he will judge the world with justice and the nations with fairness." Last week we looked at the promise of justice, the promise that there will be one day a true king who will come and make everything right, and not just return things to the way they should be, but also unleash the full potential everything was created to experience. Not just humanity, but creation itself. And that's a great source of joy. But we also need to realize the problem of justice, where we are in our current culture and humanity's understanding of right and wrong, and how we really struggle with this in our culture when we say there is no truth. We want to dethrone absolute truth and say that all views are equal. And if that's true, then there can't be a judgment day. There's no standard on which to judge. Justice requires truth. And so some people hate the idea of a judgment day, but every one of us deep inside know that we need one. We want a judgment day. So here's the problem. If there is no judgment day, no day in the future when everything will be made right, then there's no hope for the world. But if there is a judgment day, then there's really no hope for me. See, with one breath, I can demand justice for myself, but then in the same breath, I can say, I don't want to be judged. And the Hebrew story itself, all of the Hebrew scriptures show this covenant binding relationship between God and his people. And there's these promises of if you obey, there will be this blessing. But if you disobey, there will be these consequences. And God says, I will never break my covenant to you. And yet he always points out that you are breaking your covenant with me. So we have this tension, this problem in the Old Testament. Will God give up on his people and then let go of his love and his faithfulness? Or will he give in to his people and so let go of his holiness? And it seems like those are irreconcilable kind of differences. We want resolution to that in the story. The tension's growing in the scope of the Hebrew scriptures. We don't find that resolution, and that's the problem. If there is no judgment day, then there's no hope for the world. And if there is a judgment day, then there's no hope for me. Sometimes people in their anger says, if there is no judgment day, I will appoint myself to be judge myself. And one generation of victims become the next generation's oppressors. If there is a judgment day, what hope is there for you and me? We don't even live up to the standards over which we hold people to. And so that middle kind of struggle, that problem of justice is where I wanted to spend our time today, to set up the provision for justice that we find in Jesus. The story up to the promises of the Messiah, the kingdom is coming, set us up to realize that we need judgment, we need justice, and yet if there is judgment and justice, we are at the mercy of the judge himself. And so how will both justice and mercy be seen? We're going to see next week. It's at the cross. See, Psalm 98 looks back at the story of the freedom from Egypt for God's people. And then we're going to see how Mary's song at the beginning, realizing that she is carrying the Son of God, the Messiah, looks back to Psalm 98 as this is the fulfillment of this great joy that the psalmist here was talking about. We can know that there is a just God who is holy, but there is also the great love that we find in Jesus. And we need to realize both of those in our culture today. There is a right and wrong. There is a standard. There is something that we have to hold to. And then there is one who has carried that standard for us, that has carried the mercy and the love that needs to be extended to a people who will never be faithful. Let's be grateful that we have that kind of God who's both just and merciful, and not reduce to the temptation to focus on one part of his attributes over the other. The world desperately needs to see both right now. God bless you.